to Revolution Report, the show that highlights pressing issues, uplifts community voices, and questions the status quo. I'm Sarah Livings-Walsh.
And I'm Analisa Venolia.
We felt the need to dive deeper into societal problems and explore subjects from diverse perspectives. So join us in the revolution. This episode, we're continuing our coverage of the insanity of the Trump administration. We're going to be focusing on the craziness of the administration's handling of the military.
A lot of our discussion is going to be about Pete Hegseth, the new Secretary of Defense. He's so despicable, and it's infuriating what he's doing under Trump's direction. So Sarah and I aren't going to hold back our opinions.
We never do. Anyway, we've got a lot to cover, so let's get right into it.
Let's start with a bio on the main guy we'll be talking about, a brief bio, Pete Hegseth. Quite a character.
Oh boy, when we did our deep dive into him, we found some stuff.
It's crazy. Okay, so he went to Princeton for undergrad. Princeton, ooh, Ivy. All due respect to Princeton, it does have a reputation for being the most conservative of all of the Ivies.
Yes.
And I think it's very telling that he wrote for a paper called the Princeton Tory while he was there. Tories are the conservative party in the United Kingdom. We're American.
Sir.
Sir. Anyway, he then joined the National Guard and eventually rose to the rank of Major with the National Guard. And that's the highest rank he ever achieved. So think about that when we keep in mind that he is now the Secretary of Defense.
Chilling.
It is. Some highlights in his career. Throughout just his time on Earth, he has done some crazy things. One of them is that in 2015, during a Flag Day celebration, he was throwing axes and hit a drummer with an axe, seriously injuring the man, who said he suffered serious physical and mental damages and sued him.
Rightfully so.
Jinx. And sued him because of the injuries he suffered. That man is so incompetent with weapons and now he's our Secretary of Defense?
Make it make sense.
It doesn't. In 2016, he left his position with the Concerned Veterans for America, in part because of his mismanagement and his issues with alcohol. That's less than a decade ago.
Ladies and gentlemen, that is our Secretary of Defense.
The same man who, during his confirmation hearing, had to promise that he wouldn't drink on the job.
I have never seen another instance where that has happened.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
And what do other nations think of us?
Well, they hate us, first of all. Second of all, they are actively trying to distance themselves. When Germany is actively saying they want nothing to do with the United States because of it's the equivalent to what happened in Moscow.
Yeah. We are an international embarrassment. It's not fun.
No, it's not fun.
Then, from 2014 to 2024, Hegseth was a regular contributor for Fox News, and he eventually hosted Fox and Friends before he was nominated by Trump to be his Secretary of Defense. And he was confirmed in 2025. One important thing to note is that in the run-up to President Biden's inauguration in 2021, he was flagged by the National Guard as an insider threat for a tattoo he has on his bicep.
Yeah, if you could go into the detail of this tattoo.
Absolutely. It is a large cross that is surrounded by 4 smaller crosses. And so this is a symbol that originates during the Crusades. And the Crusades were a period in history where Christian armies were going to the Holy Land and effectively massacring a bunch of Muslims in the name of Jesus. That symbol from the Crusades has been adopted by white supremacy groups, white nationalist groups in the modern day, and is used sort of as a dog whistle, a calling card among them. It was present at the January 6 riots, that symbol. It's just not something you would hope that one of the leaders of your nation is proudly wearing inked on their body.
Yes, This isn't alleged. He is a white supremacist.
He has the tattoo.
He has the tattoo to prove it. There's no ambiguity with what he's about, especially with his recent firings.
Yes.
There is no ambiguity whatsoever what he's trying to gut, essentially. He went on Fox, no surprise there, and said something very interesting. So Hegseth went on Fox and said firing of top military lawyers was about making sure, and this is a quote, they don't exist to be roadblocks to anything that happens. Now, given what we just, went down the list of with his bio and that tattoo, let's put the pieces together, everyone.
Yes, and so the people that were fired. So those lawyers are Judge Advocates General, which I will be referring to as JAGs from now on, just for shorthand, and they are responsible for the administrative law, government contracting, civilian and military personnel law, the law of war and international relations, and environmental law. Basically, they are the moral compass of the military, making sure that the military is following domestic and international law in all of its actions. And they just are the internal regulating body for the military. They are a key function of the military. With these firings, it's really scary. Don Christensen, a retired military judge, has said that these firings make it seem like Trump and his administration want more compliant people in those positions, presumably to let them get away with whatever they want to get away with. And Hegseth himself clearly has an agenda against these JAGs. In his book that he wrote in 2014, he refers to them as jag-offs. Clearly derogatory.
Horrible.
Yeah, and he described them as the people who get in the way of the military doing their job.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah, which crazy because they're the ones who keep the military responsible.
Yeah. So that leads us into our next quote from Amy McGrath, which I thought was very, very important to bring up. Here's what she said, quote, "Here's what's going on. When you start firing the military's top lawyers, that means you are getting ready to order the military to do unlawful things. Trump replaces those JAGs with men who will justify any future unlawful and unethical actions that he may want the military to do," end quote.
That quote perfectly encapsulates the severity of what's going on, how scary it is.
Absolutely. And so basically what she is referring to, and what I believe that she's hinting at, is enacting martial law. So martial law is the replacement of civilian government by military rule and the suspension of civilian legal processes for military powers. Basically, the military is the government. There's no democracy, there's no right to a fair trial. And according to Brennan Center for Justice, it has been declared at least 68 times in the United States.
Which is not a commonly known fact, I don't think.
No, I mean, just some times to recall, it happened during Pearl Harbor.
Mm-hmm.
It happened during the Civil War. It happened when people were trying to fight segregation.
Yeah, in Maryland in 1963.
Yes.
Yeah, which, not a great look.
No, it is not a great look. So, the threat of it happening again seems plausible.
Absolutely.
And I do think we are headed in that direction. Now, something that I do want to note globally is that South Korea tried doing that exact same thing, and guess where their president ended up?
In jail.
In jail.
Yeah. On December 3rd, President Yoon declared martial law. It lasted for less than 12 hours. The South Korean people turned out en masse to protest.
Yes.
And as a result, he has been impeached. He has been indicted on charges of inciting a rebellion. Yoon is not being treated well as a result. And respectfully, it's his own fault.
Yes. So, and what I would like to point out about this massive attempted coup in South Korea, which resulted with him going to prison, going to jail, which, hello US, why hasn't there been any repercussions?
Because, unfortunately, he can pardon himself.
Yes, and that's why we are hoping that Congress and everyone in that judicial power really, really starts to think about our next presidents. Truly, we need laws in place where the president cannot pardon himself or herself.
Absolutely. I never thought that I would be hoping that Trump's appointed justices would do the right thing. And here I am hoping that they will, because their jobs are also under threat.
Oh, absolutely. He's flexing his power right now. And we're already seeing some discontentment within the Supreme Court against Donald Trump. They have been ruling against him steadily, slowly, but steadily.
Let's keep it up.
Let's keep it up. Anyway, back to South Korea. What was so astonishing about this attempted coup is that he decided to inflict martial law in the middle of the night.
Hoping that no one would pay attention.
Oh, people did. Congressmen and women were jumping over like fences, jumping over walls, trying to get to the
Capitol. Yeah.
Get to the Capitol.
Yeah. No, and the South Korean people did such an amazing job rejecting that attempted coup by Yoon. They said, not on our watch. We remember the last time there was martial law in South Korea. There are people with living memory of that happening and the consequences of that. And they said, not on our watch. And I think we in the United States should take inspiration from the strength of the South Korean people in their response to that attempted coup and say, if they can do it, so can we.
There was a video that was circulating, especially with a congresswoman in South Korea, who literally was looking down the barrel at
a soldier, yeah.
At a soldier, yes. And he tried to raise it to her. You know what she did? She literally grabbed the rifle and dropped it.
An icon. So powerful.
That will forever be just in my mind.
Yeah.
I've never seen such strength.
Such bravery, yeah. Absolutely insane. And she was internationally applauded for that, as she should be.
Yeah.
As she should be. No, and people like her are who we should be drawing our strength from in times like this.
Absolutely.
Circling back to Pete Hegseth, on February 21st, he also fired Charles Q. Brown, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and Admiral Lisa Franchetti, the chief of the Navy, from their positions. Now, Charles Q. Brown was a decorated 4-star general and was replaced by Air Force Lieutenant General John Dan Kane, who is a 3-star general. Now, the positions in the Chiefs of Staff are supposed to be for only 4-star generals, not 3-star, and granted the president can waive that requirement if they deem it's necessary, but how insulting to be replaced by someone of a lower rank than you, who is not, by the definition of the job description, qualified for your position.
Yeah, see, that's the equivalent of hiring a yellow belt over a red belt.
Yeah. The disrespect.
Just, what are you doing? What are you doing?
What are you doing? And it was clear that Hegseth had a personal agenda in those firings because he named both Brown and Franchetti in his 2024 book, dismissing them and just being rude, calling Charles Q. Brown a DEI hire, saying that he always played the race card because God forbid that General Charles Q. Brown speak up in favor of Black Lives Matter and own his identity as a black man. How dare he?
I'm so angry I can't even speak.
That's so fair. Hegseth is a horrible, hateful person. And It is a national disgrace that he is our Secretary of Defense.
Yes, and so a lot of people are showing their discontentment on social media with this one user, Joyce White Vance, saying, members of the military are supposed to be loyal to the Constitution, not the president. Changing that seems to have been the point of what they are coining now as the Friday Night Massacre.
I think that's very insightful.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we know that not everyone who is currently serving in the military is happy with Trump and his administration. We have gotten some intel from people who are currently serving, they will stay anonymous,
Yes.
that if they are tasked with doing certain activities on the border, things like that, that they are prepared to walk. They are unhappy with current stations. Actually, I'm not going to say where for their safety, but with current placement and potential orders that they are being given, and they do not feel that that is what their job is supposed to be. That is not how they are meant to serve this country. And as a result, they are prepared to leave their service of the United States military because they disagree with the orders that they're being given.
Yes. Yes. And so, unfortunately, when we're under dictatorship, and I do feel comfortable saying that.
Absolutely.
When we are under dictatorship, a lot of times those dictators do not care about who is going to leave. They care about getting someone who will do the job. That's when you start getting paramilitary into play. That's when you start getting a bunch of these regimes into the picture. Now, which leads us to our next discussion on paramilitary being enacted. And now this may be at a community level and a state level. Nonetheless, it's still a level. So there was an incident that happened a couple days ago from filming this that shook me to my core. So Dr. Teresa Bornapol, she was doing her civic duty by showing up at a town hall meeting. So she previously ran in 2024 with the Democratic Party for election to the Idaho House of Representatives to represent District 5B. She lost to a conservative, so keep that in mind. She went to the town hall and they started talking about reproductive rights. They started talking about how Roe v. Wade needs to be overturned. They need to start doing that. And she was having none of it. She stood up and she said, no, that's not true, XYZ. And then the representative holding the town hall meeting decided to berate her on the mic and say, what you are saying now, it's meaningless.
What?
It's meaningless. And people were like applauding him for doing that. So then a group of unnamed people in black shirts, which I will refer to later in our little history lesson for paramilitary, decided to unlawfully detain her.
Oh my gosh.
Drag her by her feet, assault her because she decided to say and use her freedom of speech.
Yeah.
So now we are seeing at a local level paramilitary being used. So I would like to point out, this all started when she loudly said, is this a town hall or a lecture?
Mm-hmm.
And they did not like that. So he had his little personnel come in and forcibly escort her out, which is illegal,
Yeah.
by the way. And on her GoFundMe, which we will link for legal fees that she is rightfully suing these people. And on her GoFundMe, they start listing the incident, which I will read from little snippets from. So it says, in shocking and unlawful turn of events, Dr. Bornapol was detained by unmarked paramilitary squad, an unknown and unnamed group of individuals with no clear authority or justification for their actions. What's even more alarming is that the local sheriff, who instead of protecting Dr. Bornapol, stood by and filmed the incident on his phone after encouraging her violent removal.
That is disgraceful, but I wish it wasn't unexpected, because unfortunately we do know that a number of police officers are also members of these paramilitary groups, these extremist groups. That is unfortunately a fact.
Yes, there are a lot of, this isn't an opinion.
Yeah, this is not a conspiracy theory.
This is a fact, unfortunately, that there are a lot of gang members in police forces.
Yeah, Lord knows that here in Los Angeles, we had a gang in the sheriff's department that was tracking the number of black men that they killed.
Yeah.
So this is not a conspiracy theory. This is an unfortunate fact about policing in America.
Yeah. So what happened, though, is the men were applauding her being forcefully removed.
Disgusting.
While these unmarked paramilitary basically were saying, if you don't comply, I will pepper spray you.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't comply, things are going to get worse for you. And she bravely said, that is what they tell sexual assault victims.
Yeah. She's so powerful. That is so scary.
That is so scary. And so what's so unfortunate about this is there were people applauding her getting forcefully removed. And guess what? Only the women stood up and said something.
Yeah.
The men weren't there. You know, when you see something wrong, you need to act on it.
Absolutely. Men, this is a call out to you. Do your part. Stop being a bystander. It is not acceptable. If you want women to trust you, if you want women to feel safe around you, prove that they can.
Prove that they can. And yeah, no, I am not a fan of the bystander effect, but I think that that is being widespread in this country specifically because people are fearing the backlash. But this is the time more than ever that we need to stand up and resist, especially against Nazis.
Especially against Nazis. It is your civic duty to protest Nazis. It is your civic duty to resist against them. Don't let them get away with doing their white supremacist, their white nationalist, their domestic terrorist agenda.
Yes, and so I do want to point out, especially referring back to our last episode, we talked about dictators.
Mm-hmm.
A famous dictator, Mussolini, had paramilitary. Actually, the first fascist paramilitary group. You know what they were called?
Tell me.
The Black Shirts.
Interesting.
Guess what these unmarked personnel paramilitary were wearing?
I see.
Black shirts.
Yeah.
Now, granted, I don't think that that was intentional on their part, but I just found it ironic.
It is. It is. Oh, my goodness. Yeah, listeners, this is your call in to say...
Call to action.
Yeah. Stand up for what is right in your community on local levels. Don't let something like this get away. Don't let people get away with doing something like this with no consequences.
Absolutely. And again, we are seeing this dictator that we have in office right now, Donald Trump, when he gets backlash, he backs down. Especially, and I do want to point out, the protests are working. The calls are working. Keep it up, because when he said that Zelensky was a dictator and that Russia didn't invade Ukraine, that actually Ukraine started the war, which is false, by the way. Absolutely false. Deplorable that he would even say something like that, but I'm not shocked. There was such massive outrage. There were protests across the United States in support of Ukraine that he actually walked back that statement.
Amazing.
He walked back that statement and he said, no, Russia invaded Ukraine.
People take that as a sign. Protests work, as Sarah said. They do. And also look to history. People didn't get change by not saying anything. Change happens when you speak up, when you take direct action. Now is the time when your literal civil liberties are being threatened. Do not sit idly by. Do something about it in whatever way you can.
Yes, and so if you cannot physically go to a protest, I need you to be calling your representatives, calling Congress. Calls do work. Emails work.
Donate with your money. The most important thing you can do as a consumer in a capitalist society is speak with your money. Don't buy anything that Elon Musk has stock in. Don't buy a Tesla if you're looking for a new car. Don't support any of his initiatives. Don't buy from companies that comply with Trump's orders, you know?
Because what people fail to realize, and what the government loves to say, is that the people don't have the power they do. Actually, it's the opposite.
100%. That's literally what this country was founded on.
It's the opposite. We do have the power. Power in numbers.
100%.
And we need to use that to our advantage. Get loud about it. Speak up.
Speak up.
And stop being a goddamn bystander.
Correct.
When you see something wrong, and I don't care how small it is, you need to stand up.
Yeah, say something. Make sure that person who is being targeted is safe, that they feel like they're not alone, that they're supported. Obviously, keep your physical safety in mind.
Absolutely.
but don't do nothing. Don't do nothing.
Because if you do nothing, you are just as bad as them.
Agreed. As we're starting to wrap it up, we wanted to leave with a little bit of levity, because this has been a pretty intense episode.
Yeah.
But in funny news, the Army chorus sang "Do You Hear the People Sing" from the musical Les Mis at the Governor's Ball. And the irony is incredible.
I mean, as theater nerds, it was a gift.
Absolutely. And we do know that Trump is a fan of the song. Apparently, he included it on a playlist in 2022. He loves musicals, which I'm genuinely shocked by.
Ironic.
Yes!
He's trying to defund the arts.
The man makes no sense.
He's a walking contradiction.
Absolutely. But regardless of whether or not he's a fan of the song, the fact that he can't see the irony of it being performed as he and his administration are doing these crazy things, as he tweeted declaring himself a king.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Yeah, no, so the White House actually made an AI image. The White House literally tweeted this. I'm not making this up. Of him saying,
"Long live the king," I think it
"Long
was.
live the king." They replied with an AI image of him wearing a crown.
And to not see the irony of the Army chorus performing "Do You Hear the People Sing," a song that is a protest song against injustice, against a tyrannical government. The lyrics literally say, "Do you hear the people sing, singing the song of angry men? It is the music of a people who will not be slaves again." The song is just about freedom, the desire for freedom from tyranny, and the fact that the people are uniting against oppression. This man, we know his reading comprehension is -20, right? But it is still incredible that he loves this song so much. And we can all, in the midst of all this chaos and absolute insanity of his administration, we can all at least laugh at that.
Have a giggle.
I know I did.
I know we did.
Correct. What a whirlwind of an episode. We definitely touched on a ton of topics, but we thought they were all important to discuss.
We'll include the link to Dr. Bornabal's GoFundMe for her legal fees if any of you want to donate. We'll also be making a donation to her cause.
Absolutely. And things are crazy, but as we keep saying, if we come together and fight back, we will get through this.
We'll have links to relevant resources on our website, handballcourtradio.com. And you can follow us on Blue Sky at Handball Court Radio. You can also find me there at Sarah Livings-Walsh.
And my handle is not like Mona Lisa.
And with that, I'm Sarah Livings-Walsh.
I'm Analisa Venolia.
And this has been Revolution Report. See you in 2 weeks.